I got really, really angry this last couple of weeks. But it took me a while to get there. I had to come to grips with being willing to be seen by me. I was the one who needed to see me. And I'll take you through the practices that got me there. I put out an invitation to the universe to help me connect with anger, because it's something that it's really difficult for me. I'm over 50. How old am I? I'll be 52 this year. And touching anger has always been really dangerous for me, and just something that has not been desirable. Now, whether that's because patriarchy, and that's the way I've been trained, be nice, be kind, don't rock any boats. Probably that's a lot to do with it. So I've been doing some practices the last few weeks, some processes, some shadow work with art and journaling and art, because the journaling was too sharp and too confronting. And so gentle journaling into gentle art, into talking about my experiences here with you. My name's Sondra. I'm from the Goddess Kindled Universe. I run a publishing company. I'm a holistic therapist of 30 years, a body worker of almost 30 years, a Reiki master, energy medicine practitioner from way back since I was 15. And I have a lot of wisdom that I'd like to share with you. And in doing that, I remind myself of the vast wealth of resources that I can access. And so as I access that wealth during my own work, during my own personal shadow work, as I work through this life of mine, I'm going to share that and be the example to you. And I'll talk to you about the inner goings on as I work through those processes in this vlog. Yeah. I am your own personal tower card. The chaos energy is real. And often I find what I say is not what you want to hear. Might be what you need to hear though. It's time, I think, hey? So, come on. You might find something here too. The first process you'll be seeing is this beautiful multimedia piece. She's called Facing Soul, which is the name that came up because she's looking straight into my soul. And she's lots and lots of layers of paint and pencil and other paint, and she's soft, and it allowed me to soften into a space where I could then journal about the harder, sharper things and really go into specific memories. I've realised for a lot of my life, I haven't allowed myself to feel good. Feeling good results from things for which I should be ashamed, or for things that I have to keep secret. And that goes back to very young events that happened to me when I was very young and innocent, and things that shouldn't have happened to me. Perhaps I should have been protected from having them happen. Obviously I can't talk about this yet, and so that's going to be a process, but learning that I'm allowed to feel good brought out an anger. Just for a moment, I cracked right into feeling really angry. And so that's what started me re-looking at, or looking at, the guided journals that I wrote months ago, a year ago, more than a year ago now. And one of them is called I See You Anger, and I wasn't ready to go into that at that point. What I was ready for was to do some shadow work and shift some energy. And the way I do that is through mixed media, art, different kinds of artwork and journaling. And so because I wasn't ready to get into the journaling yet, I got out my paints and painted a face. Found a tutorial that spoke to me, that felt really good, and followed along and created a beautiful picture, which you've already seen in the end. But it was really soothing, and the whole process took about an hour just to lay the shadows down. The entire picture took much longer, but I have a recording of me laying the initial shadows down, which I want to share with you. So what I'm going to do is speed up the footage so that you can see it, just relax and sink into your own shadows. And while you're watching her face come out of the page, I encourage you to think about the reasons why you might stop yourself from feeling good, and just let that, just stay with that. Don't turn away from it, don't run from it, and allow the drawing process that you're watching, the painting process that you're watching, to hold you safely while that just gently bubbles up. So it was at that point in the process, I finished laying down all these beautiful shadows, and I stopped filming because this was, in the old days, a whole 2, 3 weeks ago, when I had no idea that I was going to be making this into a vlog. And I thought, well, nobody's going to want to see this footage anyway. So I didn't record the finishing. And I was telling myself things like my cameras aren't good enough. Instead of doing what I know, which is moving forward with what I have from where I am, using the materials that I have on hand, which are, of course, perfect for now, because that's what I've got. Anyway, so this is the finished piece that I ended up with. Isn't she beautiful? And so I spent a lot of time finishing her with pencils and having a conversation and letting her speak to me and letting her tell me that it was okay to be seen and it's okay to enjoy the process, to feel good, to find pleasure in the things that I like, the things that make me feel good. And so she, just looking at her there, I didn't think she was good enough when I was finished. I put it to the side and went, oh, the proportions are wrong. And, it's taken me a while to fall in love with her exactly as she is. Her fierce, really intense look right into my heart. She can see me. And she's a reflection of me and my thoughts where I am, as your art will be for you. And anyway, so it was important that I did her, that I created her, that I went through that process, which took several days to finish her, with breaks, to let the things soften and bubble just underneath all of this stuff that I was doing inquiry about. And then I got to the point where I was ready to do some journaling. And I made a video, a guided journaling video for the first question in the book, in my book. And I split that out into 3 parts and timed it I think it's 5 minutes for each question, so like a 15-minute video. And I'll put a link below where you can find that. And created a sheet, a downloadable, journaling sheet that you can write into with it. And so I used them. The reason I make the things that I make is because I want them. I need them. They support me in my healing, and so I share them with you because they might help you also. That's where all of my stuff comes from. And so the next thing I'll show you is the creation of the cover of the guided journal, which was shadow work in itself. It's what I call one of my bare lines art pieces, where I start with a black piece of paper and I write. I try to keep the pen moving. I write with white paint pen, and it's a flow and it's like a dance on the paper. And it can be intense, it can be gentle. It's really freeing because I don't go into it with a plan. I have a reference picture most often, and I'll show you the reference picture and explain to you. Well, here, I'll get her now. Where is it? So I got her from a book that I picked up at a secondhand market, and I'll have to be strategic about how I show her and where I cover, because I do a lot of nudes in my bare lines work, but I chose her because the look on her face is really, I was looking for something that said anger to me, but a specific kind of anger. And she just really spoke to me. She was really direct. And I needed that connection with myself, that to intensify the gaze into myself that she began. So can you see where they're both gazing directly at me, at you, but the painting is softer. And so this is the next layer of my shadow work. So go in more intensely. And so she was the image that I chose to use as a reference. And I'll show you the drawing process where I drew her face, which became the cover for the journal. And it's really interesting. The more I strip away, the deeper the layer that I'm uncovering, the less involved the artwork is typically. It becomes more and more open and bare and raw. And so that's the process I'll show you now. What's going to happen now is I will begin rounding any of the sharp corners, anywhere a line intersects basically, and that will soften the whole picture. And in the process of rounding these corners and removing the sharp edges, it helps me to stay with the uncomfortable sensations and soften them at the same time. And so this is a really beautiful way to shadow work anything that's on your mind. And it's one of my favourite techniques, rounding the corners. I'm going to speed up the rest of the process because it takes quite a long time. See you at the end, darling. So these have been my processes, my layers, my ways in to accessing anger, to letting it see me, to letting me see me and parts of me that I haven't looked at or stayed with for a really long time. Maybe they will help you. I hope so. Do let me know. There are some free guided meditations you can find on my website that will support you. Find one that makes you feel yummy and go on a journey, or listen to some of the music, some of the beautiful healing ambient music that I've got there as well. Created and produced by my amazing wife. She's the only reason why that big chunk of me talking when I'm wearing the purple jumper and holding up the different pictures, she's the only reason why that is even a little bit listenable, because it was shocking before. She's a sound engineer. She was absolutely horrified. So my lesson learned this time is don't ever record audio on my phone. Use the microphone, even though it's in front of my face and even though my chin bumps into it sometimes, use the microphone. So, we'll get there. I hope you've enjoyed it anyway. If you're still here at the end, do all the things you normally do on YouTube, I guess. I'll be back again with some more shadow work and art processes to share with you. Okay, I'll see you next time.